So for this session, we will do reward management paper that was done in November 2018. Time allowed is 3 hours. This paper was set by the Kenya National Examinations Council and is with respect to Diploma in Human Resource Management. The instructions, this paper consists of 6 questions. Answer question 1 and any other 3 questions in the answer booklet provided. Question 1 carries 40 marks, while all other questions carry 20 marks each. Candidates should answer the questions in English. Those are the instructions given for this paper. Then the candidates were also informed that this paper consists of 4 printed pages, and candidates should check the question paper to ascertain that all pages are printed as indicated and that no questions are missing. So read the case and answer the questions that follow. The case is with respect to Calgary Airlines, CA. So somebody to read for us the case, Calgary Airlines. Natalie, go on. Natalie?
Sorry, just a minute. Okay. Calgary Airlines was formed in 1970 through an act of parliament. The state-owned corporation received sufficient budgetary allocation to get it on its feet in a record 4 years. Government protection gave it monopoly status, while good management propelled it to a position among the highly ranked airline companies in the region. The success, however, soon attracted political interference. The chief executive officer was forced to create jobs for personalities that needed to be rewarded for political reasons. In some cases, the CEO was also instructed on the amount that such employees were to earn. In line with this freelance culture, executives awarded themselves enormous pay packages that had no relationship whatsoever with performance. To keep the organization running and forestall possible disquiet, the increases were extended to key personnel, including pilots and the cabin crew. Successive political and management regimes maintained the same trend. 3.5 decades down the line, the bubble at Calgary Airline was ready to burst. There was an overbloated workforce with irrational wage differentials. The elaborate wage policy that had been developed at the time of formation had been long discarded. The trade was notorious for its deficient attitude and use of unscrupulous methods to force management to agree to all its demands. Strikes, go-slows, agitations, and wage negotiations were the order of the day. In an effort to ensure that the national pride did not turn into national shame, the government replaced the entire board of directors as well as the chief executive officer. The new CEO, Mr. Wanderi, who was hired through a consultant, was entrusted with the transition. After having made in-depth logical and strategic studies of the situation at Calgary Airlines, the new CEO flagged off what he called Operations Rejuvenation. His first step was to hire a team of human resource consultants to assist him. The team's first assignment was to weed out underperformers and redundant positions. Towards this end, a comprehensive job evaluation program was instituted using the point factor method. Factors to be used to determine the relative worth of jobs were selected and weights attached to each factor. Due to the large size of the organization, all jobs could not be evaluated. Instead, benchmark jobs were selected for evaluation. These jobs then formed the basis for redesigning the grade structure. Jobs that didn't fit in were declared redundant. The team adopted the 360-degree feedback system to evaluate the performance of all top officials. This 360-degree feedback system was followed by personal interviews to discuss individual performance. Those with deficiencies were counseled on ways to overcome such deficiencies. The wage payment system was the other area that the team worked on. They introduced a combination of the traditional wage plans, like the piece rate and time rate plans, and more modern plans like the skill-based and competency wage plans, as well as broad banding. In addition to the wage system, The incentive plan was also overhauled. Long-term incentive plans like profit sharing were offered to management and other key staff. Short-term incentive plans were mostly offered to lower cadre employees. Irrespective of the types of plan, the team endeavored to ensure that it was acceptable to its beneficiaries. Though the CEO is confident the company will turn around, he is aware that the real solution lies in privatization. A. The reward-related challenges at Calgary Airlines would have been avoided if the wage policy was adhered to. Explain the ways in which adherence to the wage policy would have achieved this objective. B. Explain the factors that the human resource consultant at Calgary may have used to determine the relative worth of jobs during the process of job evaluation. C. Explain the benefits that may have accrued to Calgary Airlines from the use of the feedback system that was used to evaluate top executives. D. The human resources consultant endeavored to ensure that the incentive plans they introduced were acceptable. Explain the requirements that such plans must have satisfied to achieve the objectives.
So thank you so much. That is a case for Calgary Airlines. We are given the situation in the company, the challenges the company has been encountering, and reward scenario and proposed solutions to be able to address the issues emanating in the company. So question A, the examiner is asking for the reward related challenges at Calgary Airlines that would have been avoided if there was a wage policy adhered to. If you have a policy to manage rewards and you adhere to this policy, you should have been able to deal with these challenges. So explain the ways in which adherence to the reward policy would have achieved these objectives. Question B, explain the factors that the human resource consultant at Calgary may have used to determine the relative worth of jobs during the process of job evaluation. Question C, the benefits that may have accrued to Calgary from the use of feedback system as they evaluated their top executives. And question D, the HR consultant endeavored to ensure that the incentive plans introduced were acceptable. So explain the requirements that such plans must have satisfied to achieve these objectives. So this is the scenario obtaining in the company and what the examiner is asking of you. So question 1A, the reward-related challenges at Calgary Airlines that would have been avoided if the wages policy was adhered to. So explain ways in which adherence to the wages policy would have achieved these objectives. So go back to the case and identify what are the reward-related challenges as presented in the case. Then you revisit your policy on reward and try to appreciate into which areas the policy on reward would have helped address these challenges raised. So, who goes first? Move fast so that we are able to finish the paper in good time. Which are the reward-related challenges in the case? We start with that. Yes, Natalie, your hand is raised.
I can see one where they say that the CEO was forced to, yeah, the executives awarded themselves enormous pay packages that had no relationship with the performance. So that's the first challenge.
Enormous pay packages, no relationships with performance. First challenge. Stacy?
Strikes and go-slows were the order of the day.
Strikes and go-slows were the order of the day. Anything else?
There's a part where they say the CEO was also instructed on the amount that employees were to earn. So there was no structure on how certain employees should be paid.
The CEO gives instructions on how much employees are to earn so that you don't follow through with an elaborate structure. Terry?
Irrational wage differentials.
Say that again.
There were irrational wage differentials.
Irrational wage differentials. No equity. Yes, Nathan?
They were creating jobs to award personalities for political reasons.
So how is it? Remember, our question is reward management challenges that would have been avoided if we adhered to the policy. So when you talk about the reward policy, we were looking at the reward policy and saying the reward policy is supposed to address key issues. The levels, the reward levels. How much is the organization willing and ready to pay? Issues to do with the relationship between reward and business performance. Issues to do with the reward versus market rates. How much are we paying vis-a-vis the market rates? Issues to do with equity in reward so as to avoid irrational wage differentials. Issues to do with performance-related rewards. Can we have a framework for rollout of performance-related rewards to avoid situations where, like the CEO were awarding themselves FT packages that cannot be explained when they looked at the performances of the airline. Arbitrariness in terms of administration of the reward, so that the reward policy should help us come up with a pay structure, and if you implement your policy, then you will stick to your structure to achieve the intended reward objectives. What are the guiding principles on how the reward processes should operate? All these are issues that are addressed by the reward policy. So when the examiner is asking, explain ways in which adherence to the wage policy would have achieved the objectives intended, we would say the wage policy would have helped us in terms of ensuring equity in reward to avoid irrational wage differentials. The wage policy would have ensured we come up with a performance-related pay system so that the pay or the wage offered matches the performance recorded of the staff. The wage policy would have ensured we come up with a package that mirrors what other players are doing in the market upon carrying out a market survey. The wage policy would have ensured we have a definite structure. When we have a defined structure, then we avoid situations where there are pay that is irrational, that you cannot explain how pay increments, for example, are being awarded and implemented in the organization. Then the wage policy would have set out guiding principles on how to determine and process wages in the organization to avoid unnecessary challenges. And with that, you would have created a wage structure that is acceptable, so that everybody is happy with the structure and you avoid all these strikes and go-slows that disrupt operations because of poor management of your reward system. Question B. Question B says what? Explain the factors that the human resource consultant at Calgary may have used to determine the relative worth of jobs during the process of job evaluation. So when you are doing job evaluation, you want to ensure you pay based on the value of the jobs. So with these challenges in mind, the CEO came up with the CEO and board was replaced, and then the new CEO who was hired decided that we needed to do things differently so as to rejuvenate operations. And his first step was to hire an HR consultant. Then the HR consultants, when they embarked on their job, they weeded out underperformance and redundant positions were identified. Then towards this end, a comprehensive job evaluation program was instituted using the point factor method. The factors to be used to determine the relative worth of the job were selected and weights attached to each factor. Due to the large size of the organization, all jobs could not be evaluated. Instead, benchmark jobs were selected for evaluation. These jobs then formed the basis for redesigning the grade structure. The jobs that didn't fit in were declared redundant. Job evaluation. So explain the factors that the human resource consultant at Calgary may have used to determine the relative worth of jobs during the process of evaluation. So you read through the case, you may not get these factors, but these factors are factors you have interacted with when doing job evaluation. Compensable factors. Factors that will be willing and ready to pay for, to compensate employees for in the organization. So which are some of these compensable factors? Natalie, your hand is raised first.
You can use nature of the type of job.
Say that again.
Nature of the job as a factor.
Nature of the job.
Yeah. So is it a high risk job? For example, yeah.
Nature of the job. Anything else?
Knowledge.
The levels of knowledge that the job holder has.
Responsibility.
Responsibility that the job holder performs.
The complexity of the type of job.
How complex the job is, the complexity of the job.
Level of supervision.
Say that again, Valentine.
The level of supervision involved.
The levels of supervision involved. Anything else?
Working conditions.
Working conditions. So that you understand, these are the factors that we consider important in helping us determine how much we will compensate, we will remunerate our employees for the various positions that we're having in our organization. Job complexity, working conditions, the levels of knowledge, experience, responsibility that the job holder is expected to possess. You can also add skills and effort that is required of the job holder. So each factor you identify and explain it. Then you have the factors that we will use. For example, if you look at the examples that we have in the class, the example we did, we used point rating and used knowledge, responsibility, complexity, and experience as factors. So it doesn't mean every evaluator will use the same factor. So the factors you will employ will vary. Question C. Explain the benefits that may have accrued to Calgary Airlines from the use of the feedback system that was used to evaluate top executives. Yes, go on. Anybody? The team adopted 360-degree feedback system to evaluate the performance of all top officials. The 360-degree feedback system was followed by personal interviews to discuss individual performance. Those with deficiencies were cancelled on ways to overcome such 360-degree appraisal. So explain the benefits that may have accrued to Calgary Airlines from the use of the feedback system that was used to evaluate the top executives. Performance appraisal using 360-degree, where you are appraised by your peers, you are appraised by your supervisor, you are appraised by the subordinates, and you are appraised by the supervisor, supervised holistic system of appraisal. So what benefits will accrue to the company when we go the 360-degree appraisal system? Somebody?
Employees get a broader feedback of their performance.
Broader and more holistic. Feedback on performance, yes.
It builds confidence and boosts morale. It builds confidence.
Builds
confidence and morale. It can boost your morale.
Expound briefly.
You see, when you get feedback from maybe your peers and all that, you will, it's better than someone who is just your manager appraising you. So the confidence that you have, you get from that.
So you are appraised holistically. Even your manager, supervisor is appraising you, and if he's happy with your work, then you are more motivated and you feel more confident that indeed you are delivering. Anything else?
It can bring harmony between both the appraisers and the appraisees, so that people know to do their work efficiently because they know they're going to be appraised from the various departments.
So it builds harmony within the workplace. It's a fairer system of appraising the staff, because you will have your subordinates, your peers, your manager, and your manager supervisor all appraising you. So you will feel part of the team because you will be appraised by all. They feel and appreciate your contributions across. Anything else?
It gives a more reliable feedback to senior managers and shows them what their needs are.
More reliable? Would you care to expound?
It's more reliable because it's not coming from just one person who is appraising. There are different ranks.
So you are praised by different persons,
Several
different
people.
ranks, with different capacities, so to speak, so that they will look at you and review your performances and rate you in a more holistic, accurate picture. Anything else that may come out?
Can we say it reduces biasness, because now you're being evaluated by different people, not just one person?
Reduces bias because of the multi-rater scale that is to be applied. So you get feedback from 4 levels, likely to be more holistic rather than where only your supervisor. The reality with your supervisor is if you've had bad working relations over the period, then that would impact how they will rate you because of the recent happenings. So it eliminates unnecessary bias and is more objective. Anything else?
It is can I say the feedback is highly acceptable and gives it a perception of being valid because it is objective. It's not done by just one rank. So it's easier for the person being appraised to accept the results.
Results are acceptable. So you'll realize this question is more about application of knowledge that you have being presented in the case. You'll not get these answers straight from the case, but you have to apply your knowledge from elsewhere to attempt this question. Question D. The human resource consultant endeavored to ensure that the incentive plans they introduced were acceptable. Explain the requirement that such plans must have satisfied to achieve the objectives. You say what? That in addition to the wage systems, the incentive plan was overhauled. Long-term incentive plans like profit sharing were offered to management and other key staff. Short-term incentive plans were mostly offered to lower cadre employees. Irrespective of the types of plan, the team endeavored to ensure that it was acceptable to the beneficiaries. So the question is, the human resource consultants endeavored to ensure that the incentive plans they introduced were acceptable. Explain the requirements that such plans must have satisfied to achieve the objective. for the incentive plans to be acceptable? What requirements should these plans have achieved? Anything?
Maybe I could try.
Yes.
So I think the plans must have been communicated well with the employees. Clear communication.
The plan has to be clearly communicated so that we are sure what is on offer. Natalie?
The plans must be equitable.
Say that again.
The plans should have been equitable.
Element of equity. Incentive schemes. You want to roll out incentive schemes. So the examiner is asking, explain the requirements that such incentive schemes should have so as to achieve the objectives intended. Incentive schemes, where you are looking at schemes for rewarding employees, but also to offer an incentive to motivate. When, for example, you want to roll out a bonus scheme, you want to roll out a bonus scheme where the employees know that scheme is being rolled out. This is what will be measured, and this is the bonus. They will be, how the bonuses will be calculated is clearly set out. So it's what the examiner is asking you. For us to succeed in rollout of such an incentive scheme, what requirements must the scheme achieve?
I want to try. So I think it should have an element of merit, should be merit-based.
Merit. Anything else?
It should, the plan should be collaborative in nature so that the employees maybe are given an opportunity to discuss what they would prefer. So if it's collaborative, then it's going to be successful.
Collaborative. Okay, for us to talk about an incentive scheme and ensure it succeeds, you want to ensure that you have the scheme in place. You want to be clear as to the performance targets and what measures will be used to assess the performances, because it is the results that you will be using as a basis for rewarding. You want to be clear that we are sure you will be rolling out an individual or group or organizational wide incentive scheme that is clear to everybody, so that everyone knows what they need to do and how they will be compensated. You want to ensure the reward system is fair and consistent when it comes to the measuring of the performance targets and administration of the rewards. You want to ensure that the individual is able, or the group is able to influence their performance through changing behavior and actions and achieve intended rewards. Because if you set targets that are beyond my capability, you cannot use the results of how I will perform to determine how you will be compensated. And the rewards should come as closely as possible after the accomplishment of the task. You don't wait until 2 years down the line is when you are rolling out the rewards for the incentive scheme. So clear, you determine the targets, close of the year or end of the year, if possible, work out and even pay the bonus for Christmas immediately. Don't wait 2 years down the line is when you say, oh, we are now paying you bonuses for 2019. So for the scheme to work, these are some of the issues that you must address. What is the basis of the payment of the incentive schemes and the proportion of the incentive to the total pay that the individual will get? Such issues are considered when you want to roll out a successful incentive scheme. I hope that is clear. Then with that, we are done with question 1, 40 marks. Then we go to question 2. Question 2 to 6 both have, each has A and B. So question 2A. Explain the guiding principles that should be followed when designing a pay structure to ensure it is effective. Explain the guiding principles that should be followed when designing a pay structure to ensure it is effective. Pay structure. When you are looking at pay structure, what is a pay structure? The purpose for having the pay structure, the criteria of the principles you want to consider in developing a pay structure, then the types of pay structures. So what are the principles you want to consider when you are developing this pay structure?
I think it should be consistent.
Consistency in application.
Yes.
Stacy?
The structure should be able to facilitate movements within a job.
Facilitative.
Yes.
Ben?
It should be flexible, be able to respond to internal and external pressure.
So that the structure is able to respond to internal and external pressures when it comes to reward. Natalie?
It should be competitive.
Competitive. Expound briefly.
Like it should match the market rates so that you can be able to keep your employees and attract top talent.
So you want to make sure that you offer a reward through the pay structure that is competitive. to allow you compete with other players in terms of attraction and retention of talent. Anything else? Terry?
It should be appropriate to the needs of the organization, such as the size.
To the needs. In line with the characteristics of the organization, the culture, the size, the number of employees. You want to make sure you design a pay structure that fits in to the organization. It should clearly clarify the career progression pathway so that you know you've joined in as a HR assistant or HR officer, you're in grade L. How you can grow to senior HR officer, to chief HR officer, to principal HR officer, until you attain the top level in the structure. Each point expound in a small paragraph, 3, 4, 5 lines, every point. Convince the examiner that you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. Question 2B. Explain the advantages of computer-aided job evaluation. When you want to carry out a job evaluation, you might opt for the computer-aided evaluation. So what are the advantages of applying the computer-aided job evaluation, rather than doing the traditional method that you will be doing the evaluation manually, so to speak? What advantages will accrue when you go when you use computer-aided evaluation? Basically, you computerized the evaluation process. What advantages will accrue to your organization? What benefit will you get from that computerization of the evaluation process? Lillian?
I think it would make the process way more quicker, as in faster than the manual one.
You're able to process the evaluation and do the job faster, spending less time. Yes? Next. There was another hand that was raised.
I think there's less errors when aggregating information.
You can reduce the errors during the evaluation, in the processing, in the aggregation of the data, in the analysis. You reduce and minimize errors. Yes, anything else?
I can say maybe it's easier to retrieve data just in case.
Using a computer-aided process, you can record, process, calculate, store data, and retrieve when there is need easily. But if it is done manually, usually the paperwork is bulky, and being able to process the paperwork takes much time. But computer-aided, easier to access and use data. When there is need. Anything else?
Maybe I can try in terms of confidentiality, like you're able to control access on who needs to access the data, and you're able to tell any alterations that one has done and the person who viewed, yeah.
So you can ensure confidentiality. You can enhance also security features and even have some audit trail. Who has done what in the system, when, how. Possible. If somebody tampers with evaluation, it's easier to know during if you use the computer-aided evaluation. So there has to be increased objectivity. Then you can store this data. It's more reliable to process the data using computer-aided application. And also we can talk about simplification of the process of evaluation. You do that, you get it right, computer-aided job evaluation. Just the use of computer-aided evaluation, then your mind, basically you're just being told computerization of the evaluation process. What benefits will accrue? You don't start asking, what is this? This is something I've never made. This is something we've never dealt with. Question 3A. Explain the reasons that may make it necessary for organizations to regularly review their bonus schemes. The reasons that may make it necessary for organizations to regularly review their bonus schemes. So you have your bonus schemes. From time to time, you will find yourself, you need to review the schemes. So what reasons will inform your decisions to review, to change the type of scheme that you have rolled out, the type of bonus scheme that you have rolled out? What reasons?
Respond to market needs.
If there are changes in the market that calls for you to revise the schemes, you can do that. If say you're in banking and every other bank has changed how they are rolling out their bonus scheme, you can also change yours. Yes?
I say the organization performance, usually it's financial position.
So the company in terms of financial performance. Remember, rewards is a function of the business. Are you able and willing to pay? So if the business, the industry is struggling, I mean, somebody in, say, the hospitality industry, now, you cannot be demanding bonuses. So the companies will not pay you bonuses because of the circumstances obtaining in the industry. They've been hit hard. Yes? Juventina, is that the right pronunciation?
Yes, as Juventina.
Yes.
Mwalimu, can we say maybe to enhance employee motivation and maybe increase their performance in the organization?
Maybe the scheme you are having is not working, so you decide to change the scheme so as to enhance motivation.
The perform. Okay.
So if whatever scheme you have is not achieving the objectives, then you can change. Anything else?
Can you say the size of the organization? In that, if it's too large, Yes?
Expound on size.
If it's too large, the organization might not be able to cater for whatever scheme they might have been having earlier.
So
But
that
I'm
the
wondering,
growth of the organization in size, in terms of number of employees, may dictate changes. If you look at the organization, maybe organizations may merge from having 300 employees, you may now be having 2,000 employees. When you have 300 employees, there are certain incentives you can easily administer and roll out. But now when you have 2,000, it becomes very difficult. Say end of year party, it's easier to roll out an end of year party for 300 employees than for 2,000. Dominic? Dominic?
I'm saying changes in economy.
Dominic, sorry, we can't get you. Stacy?
Can we say external factors like, for example, trade unions and government regulations, because wages are usually controlled by the government, like the minimum wage, if it changes.
We are only bonus. Is bonus a factor of minimum wage? No. But
No.
external factors like trade unions will play a part. Even government legislations. The government may effect certain legal changes, decide to maybe introduce some new taxes and or eliminate certain taxes, and you decide to adjust the benefits, the incentives that you are rolling out accordingly. Helen?
Change in management of the organization.
Change in management. Expound briefly.
Sorry?
Expound how change in management will necessitate a review of the bonus scheme.
Okay, so like if you have new management that's coming in an organization and they either feel the bonus structure is either favorable or unfavorable, they might decide to do a change so that because they come with new leadership, new ideas, something like that.
So a new leadership coming in with new philosophy on reward may decide to structure the bonus scheme so as to achieve the objectives better. Nelson?
Okay, can we say like to induce the ineffective employees and enable them to be effective and stick in the organization?
To
enable the effective employees stick to the organization.
So that to help in terms of retention.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose your best. So if the organization is maybe losing out on its best talent to the competition, then it might be a reason to review the incentive scheme. So you want to be able to demonstrate that you also are offering an attractive package so as to check on the labor turnover rate that is high. So what are some of the reasons that may cause an organization to review the bonus scheme? You maybe just want to appreciate the employees for the good job that they are doing, and you feel there is a need to reward them better. So you review the bonus scheme that you've rolled out. Question B, the employees' fringe benefits package at Kazi Limited has become too costly to sustain. Explain the approaches that the management may use to adopt such costs. The employees' fringe benefits package has become too costly to sustain. So explain the approaches that the management may use to adopt such costs. Fringe benefits that the company provides has become costly. So what measures can the what approaches can you propose to management to be able to deal with such costs? Any proposals?
Mwalimu, I have a question.
Yes.
Just a clarification, the fringe benefits, are they the final dues that are due to our staff when they're leaving the organization? We need to clarify what are fringe benefits to be able to tackle the question.
When we were introducing rewards, we were saying that the organization will offer financial rewards, non-financial rewards, and benefits. Over and above the salaries, the wages, the allowances, the bonuses, and over and above the non-financial rewards, training, incentives, title, office, the organization offers fringe benefits. So from pension scheme to medical scheme to health insurance to accident insurance to those other benefits that you get, housing, or you may get the company car, or you may get allow lunch and meals offered by the organization. Those are the fringe benefits. So the cost we realize is high. So what approaches will you propose that management can use to be able to adopt such costs? The costs of the benefits are high. Yes, Helen, then Stacy. Helen?
Okay, so I think an organization can adopt an approach where they look for vendors who can offer lower terms in relation to the specific benefit.
So you are
like
force
yes,
the provision of certain benefits to vendors. That will help you check on costs. Anything else? Stacy, your hand was raised?
No, it was raised previously, Paul. I had not lowered it.
Oh, you hadn't lowered it. So anything else that you can do to check the cost other than outsourcing so that somebody else incurs the associated costs? You may want to sensitize employees about the costs that we incur as an organization to provide them with these benefits so that they better utilize the benefits and stop abusing the system. That you may find, for example, the company car is available and may be abused by employees. You may want to analyze the benefits package so that you look at the packages, each how much it is costing the organization, and what you can do to review, to amend, to change the benefit structure so as to better serve the needs of the organization. You may adopt the use of technology to better manage costs. Look at, say, the health insurance, the medical schemes. The providers ensure you have a smart card and they've captured your fingerprints so that only you can access the service. You cannot use the card. So somebody else cannot use your medical card. Technology helps us to be able to check on the costs of these. Technology, when you have the company vehicle, you have the tracking system. You can track and monitor the movements and consumption of the vehicle. Applying technology to help you in check on the costs in provision of the packages. You can introduce more of contributory schemes. When you introduce contributory schemes, it's not only the employer who incurs the costs, but shared cost. Also, employees contribute. And when employees contribute, they have keener interest in understanding how the benefit is structured and how the benefit works. You can look at how to check or cut down on administrative costs. You look at a scheme like NHIF. Most of the money contributed goes to administration expenses, almost 50% or more. So there's a problem. You did not contribute all that money to administer the scheme. You contributed it, all that money is contributed to benefit those who fall sick. Then can you also increase transparency in the rollout of the scheme so that we know how the scheme is rolled out, is implemented, is in the open. There's fairness in terms of rollout of the scheme. There are no gray areas, no ambiguities when it comes to how the scheme is rolled out. You do that, you get it right. Then at times you may even be forced to defer certain benefits until a later time, just so that you can check on the costs that you are incurring in administration of the schemes. Question 3B was not very straightforward. You have to think to be able to get to what the examiner is asking. Question 4A. Explain the reasons that may account for the growing popularity of behaviorally anchored rating scales or BAS method of performance appraisal in most organizations. What are the reasons that account for the growing popularity of behaviorally anchored rating scales in appraising staff in most organizations? that you've set out certain critical behavior that the employee should demonstrate in their performance. And you have the rating set out that you demonstrate these are the ratings that you will be getting for each behavioral trait. So the question is, what are the reasons why many organizations have adopted behavior anchored rating scales in appraising performances of the employees? Any proposed answers? Any proposed suggested solutions? In training, you did appraisal, performance appraisal as a full topic in training. And in looking at appraisal, the methods that were looked at, that you must have looked at, one of the methods was bars. So what are the reasons as to why many organizations have opted for bars as a method of appraisal?
Can you say that it's because they are developed from observation of what skills employees need, and so it's like they are job specific?
They are job specific. You know what behavior is required to perform as a human resource manager. So when we'll be appraising you, we'll be appraising your performance vis-a-vis what is required, expected of you. So job specific in terms of when you're rating this behavior. Anything else?
Okay, can you say like accuracy of the method? Because they are mostly done by experts.
The methods are accurate,
yeah,
in terms of giving us the correct outcome or feedback relating to how the employee would have performed. Good. Anything else? You know the behavior expected of a HR manager. It is communicated and clear to all in that position that this is what we'll expect and we'll be using to appraise you. So there are no ambiguities when it comes to the appraisal and the outcomes.
Can we say the results are easily acceptable to the person being appraised?
Their results are easily acceptable to the persons, the appraisee.
Yeah.
That works well. Yes, anything else? Thank you.
I see.
There is an element of the employee know what is expected of them, expected behavior. So that even as they are working, it's clear what is expected of them and what will be used to evaluate them at the appraisal stage. And the outcomes, they'll know which areas I performed poorly that I need to work on so as to improve. Ellen, your hand is raised.
I wanted to say it can be used as a form of creating a culture that's acceptable within the organization.
Form of creating a culture. You can use it to have a culture and a set of values acceptable across that would be demonstrated when we are, that we'll be looking at when we are assessing performances of all these managers using this scale.
Hello. Morning. Sasa nikupigie kidogo tu, niko kwa class. Hello. Nasema.
So results can be easily acceptable by the employees. The employees know what is expected of them, what behavior is expected of them, how they perform, and after the appraisal, they will know where they did not perform to expectations that they need to improve on. Behavior is identified that is relevant and is specific to a given job. That is then what we use to appraise particular job holders. There's the aspect of accuracy of the rating, the appraisal once we apply this rating scale. It is reliable and it is clear to all in the organization. This is a question borrowing heavily on what you do in learning and development. Question B describe the steps that should be followed when devising a reward structure. You want to come up with a reward structure. What steps do you want to follow when coming up with a reward structure? So this structure, pay structure, for example, that you want to use, when you want to come up with such a structure, what steps do you want to follow in coming up with a pay structure? Developing a pay structure. You'd want, number one, to identify, determine, does the organization, the characteristics and needs of the organization have to be clearly determined. Then you'd want to determine if the organization, or what is the philosophy driving management of the organization when it comes to reward. Because the philosophy then informs you as to the kind of structure that you want to come up with. Is it a positive or is it a negative philosophy? Then you want to do a job analysis. Study all the jobs, come up with their job description and job specifications, and group these jobs into distinct families. ICT jobs, finance, researchers, scientists, distinct within the organization. Then you want to do a job evaluation and grade positions based on the outcomes of the evaluation. Once the evaluation is done, you want to carry out a market survey. Then from the market survey, you determine what other organizations pay for similar positions. Once you know the job grades, you've done the evaluation and placed jobs into grades. You've ranked them in line with their perceived importance. Then you've determined market rates, how much similar persons are paid or similar positions are paid elsewhere. Then you define salary ranges for each of the job grades so that the jobs placed in a given grade, this range, we are willing to pay from 30 to 50 for positions in grade D. So some people will be getting 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, but within same grade, a defined range. Then set out how to be able to remunerate and deal with employees who may be having challenges in terms of fitting into the grade structure that you have rolled out. Communicate the structure. But before you communicate, there's one step: involvement of top management and the trade unions to negotiate and agree as to the kind of structure and how it will be rolled out. Then once it has ownership, they have full ownership, then you can develop a framework how you will be updating the structure from time to time so as to meet the needs of the organization, the reward needs using that structure. Question number 5. Explain the negative effects that may be associated with wage incentive schemes. Wage incentive schemes. You are using wages to remunerate your employees, but you want to come up with incentive schemes. Wage incentive schemes would be what? Schemes where you want to be able to adjust pay based on or these people, the wage earners, to be able to get their wages fine, but you want to use it as an incentive scheme so as to motivate them to even work harder to earn more. So when you have such an incentive scheme for your wage earners, what are some of the disadvantages of using such wage incentive schemes? Anyone to go first? Natalie?
Wage incentive schemes assume that money is a motivator for all, and some people might not value money as an incentive.
So the assumption is more money is an incentive, but the reality, there may be people who do not necessarily place much premium on money as an incentive. That is good. Anything else? Wage incentive schemes. Natalie again. Natalie, did you raise your hand again?
Sorry, it was by mistake.
It was by mistake.
Mwalimu, can you say the quality of the goods produced might be lower because everyone is rushing to produce something? I don't know.
So you want to produce
a higher quantity as compared to the quality, so that you can get more incentives.
So the more
higher.
The more you produce, the more you earn.
Yeah.
So there is no incentive for me to give quality. My focus is I want to produce more so that I earn more.
More. Yeah.
That is a good point. Anything else?
Can you say, okay, just go.
Okay, I wanted to ask, can you say the amount of the incentive might not be might not motivate, maybe too small to motivate the employees.
The amount of the incentive may not be so much, may be too small to motivate.
Okay, can we say that it discourages teamwork, so that people just want to work on their own individually so that they can earn more?
Discouraging teamwork. The focus is on what do I do to be able to earn more individually. Wage incentive schemes. Good schemes in terms of they are viewed like they help in enhancing performance, but there are challenges. So that the challenges would include it's very difficult to fix a rate that would be acceptable and would be an incentive acceptable across to all employees. From time to time, you will find employers may set the rate, but when they realize the employees to be will earn too much, then they start changing their goalposts. The schemes do not guarantee stable, assured earnings to the wage earners. So for the most part, they are not welcomed by workers who will feel insecure and are dissatisfied. The scheme pays you for your output, so that there is increased pressure, and with increased pressure, there'll be increased wastage because you are rushing to produce more, and even health strain and health stress affecting your ultimate productivity. The scheme stress on quantity and not quality. Focus is produce more, not the quality of the output. Then the scheme will work in terms of generating unnecessary friction between staff, because they are the more efficient and the less efficient workers. They will squabble because you feel like you're the ones who are earning, the others earn more. So it works against the company. And then in terms of the clerical work required to be able to accurately record the volume of output for every person, because you want to use that as the basis for rewarding, is a challenge. It can also create or lead to industrial disputes with controversy between staff and the employers with people who are dissatisfied about the reward system that has been rolled out. In this case, the incentive scheme. Yes, Natalie, your hand is raised.
Yes, can you say that it assumes that output is solely in the control of the employee when other factors affect output, such as the organization work environment, the availability of resources in the first place?
So the assumption is output is solely a function of the employee's performance or contribution, when the reality may be different. Output may be affected by other factors which are not considered. So explain the negative effects that may be associated with wage incentive schemes. Anything else? Anything else? Question 5B. Explain the objectives that a wage policy may seek to achieve in an organization. Explain the objectives that a wage policy may seek to achieve in an organization. Natalie, you're first to raise your hand.
Can you say it seeks to achieve consistency in terms of administration of wages?
Consistency in administration of wages. You want to talk about equity, fairness, and consistency in remuneration. Objectives of a wage policy. Number 2. Stacy?
To retain staff, maybe.
It helps in terms of staff retention when you have a consistent wage policy that is applied. Then,
maybe to increase commitment to members.
increase
Commitment of staff.
Increase commitment of staff. Ultimately, it comes as an outcome. When you have a wages policy and it is implemented, then you will have the fair rewards, increase commitment. Natalie?
Can you say it seeks to communicate the organization's stand on wages?
Communicate the organization's stand on matters of wages. Terry?
Attracts high quality staff to the organization. or talent to the organization, since they know what to expect in their career growth.
Talent attraction of competent staff. Stacy?
Motivate employees.
Employee motivation. Objectives of a wages policy. You will also ensure you pay the right wages so that the image of the company will have a good image out there. When you have a functional wages policy, you will ensure you have a right kind of reward rolled out. In the process, you will have improved working relations with the trade unions, and the general employee relations environment in the company will improve. When there's a wages policy, you ensure that you pay the right wages, right time in the process. You are able to check and control the wages cost that the organization incurs. Then it will also help us in terms of clearly determining a system and sequence to be used in effecting like promotions where applicable across the organization, so that we better manage the wage system and achieve the intended objectives. Question 6. The wage and salary levels in organizations are influenced by certain factors. Explain these factors. The wage and salary levels in organizations are influenced by certain factors. Explain these factors. So factors that influence wages and salaries in organizations. Which factors come to mind? Factors affecting wages and salary levels in organizations. Which factors come to mind? Stacy?
The performance of the organization.
The performance of the organization, so that you look at the ability of the organization to pay based on business performance. Yes, Natalie?
Can you say the job titles, the job grade?
Rewards or salary levels will be affected by the job requirements. What are the requirements of the jobs in terms of qualifications and experience will determine how much we'll be willing and ready to pay. Factors affecting reward levels, wage and salary levels. Anything else?
What about the CBA?
CBA that is in place, so that you look at the CBA and what has been negotiated with the trade unions to determine the wage levels. Anything else?
Competitors of the organization in the market.
You look at market rates. What are other players paying for similar services out there in the market?
Would you say the level of productivity of the workers?
Level of productivity. More productive workers, you'll pay them more than the less productive. Anything else?
Cost of living.
Wages is a function of the cost of living. So what are the prevailing inflation rates? Cost of living will affect how much you will be paying as wages. Anything else?
You can say the supply and the demand for the labors.
The level of demand and supply of labor services. Is it high? Is it low? If the level of demand and supply of labor, there is a high demand for labor by farms and less supply, then the farms will be forced to pay higher wages to attract. But the converse is also true. If the supply is high but the demand is low, then wage rates will be lower. Anything else? We can also talk about government policy.
Trade union bargaining power.
Government policy and regulations, like when they fix the minimum wage, or during COVID, they came up with some tax measures to try and help Kenyans adjust and cope, affecting wages. So several factors. You are given 12 marks. So that one, the examiner was expecting a minimum of 6 points. Each point in a paragraph. A paragraph is not one line. 3-4 lines explaining it. Then you demonstrate to the examiner, you understand what you are talking about. So every point on average, like 3 to 4 lines. So four lines is good. You have good explanation to convince the examiner you know what you're talking about. But you let the point stand out. If you can say level of productivity of the workers as a point, then you explain it. Turns out you demonstrate to the examiner you know what you're talking about. Then the last question, 6B, was on WIBA. The Work Injury Benefits Act 2007 provides for compensation of an employee who has been injured and dies. The Work Injury Benefits Act 2007 provides that the compensation for an employee who has been injured and dies is payable to the employee's dependents. Outline 4 categories of persons that may be regarded as such dependents. 4 categories of persons that may be regarded as such dependents. This is the act, so you don't argue maybe your mother, maybe the auntie, no. We are asked to make reference to WIBA. That WIBA 2007 provides that the compensation for an employee who has been injured and dies is payable to the employee's dependents. Outline 4 categories of persons that may be regarded as such dependents. Yes, Natalie?
The widow or widower of an employee.
The widow or widower of an employee. Next.
The legal children or adopted children.
The legal children or adopted children. The act says what? A child of the employee who has not attained the age of 18 years, including a posthumous child, a stepchild, and an adopted child adopted prior to the accident, but excluding a child who is married or who is self-supporting. C, a parent, step-parent or adoptive parent who has adopted such employee if he adopted prior to the accident or death. B, a child of the employee not contemplated in paragraph B above. If there's any other child not covered in what is in paragraph B. D, no, E, a brother, sister, half-brother, half-sister, or parent, grandparent, or grandchildren of an employee, and any other person who, at the time of the accident, was wholly dependent upon the employee for the necessaries of life. Then it says, in the case of an employee who leaves 2 or more widows, such widows shall be entitled to share such compensation as would be payable to a single widow of the deceased employees. That is so for the Saturday class, normally we capture attendance.